There are a couple of different interfaces available for OpenToonz, and it will depend on which version you have as to which interface you will get when you start. In this version I have the default interface, which is based off the Toonz interface, but there is also a Studio Ghibli interface, and if I was to go to File, Preferences, you'll see that we have an option here for rooms. The current option for rooms is default. If we were to look at the drop-down, we also have Studio Ghibli. Any changes to the drop-down menu will only take effect after we have restarted OpenToonz. This over here is the Studio Ghibli interface, which, depending on which version of Toonz you have downloaded, may well be the default interface. This interface is customized for the Studio Ghibli workflow, so it's basically an interface which has been cut down to focus purely on scanned animation and scanning and hand-drawn animation. The interface will start with your scanning and cleaning up. The menus over here have all been customized as well. You'd be cleaning up, then you'd be going to your palette edit, where you'd be setting up the colors for the character and making sure that all the characters had the correct palette. Then you would be going to ink and paint, where you would be inking the characters. Then you have X sheets to make sure that the project is organized correctly, and to check for any of the animation for background animation and controlling animation like that. Then you'd have batches, which is where you would set up render queues for the scene if you're to use render servers. Then you have the browser, which is where you'll see all the files in the scene and where you can organize the scene in terms of how the files are organized in the scene. Personally, I am not going to use any of these because they are designed for a specific workflow, which is not the workflow which I will be using. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom room. When you create a custom room, this menu over here will change. This is going to give you the default menu. To rename the room, we double click here, and I will just type in the name for the room. When I click on Windows, it will give me a list of all the potential things which I can put in this room. And it will also allow me to restore the starting interface with all of the Studio Ghibli rooms as they laid it out. The most basic things which you're going to want in your room are going to be either a viewer or a combo viewer. If you drag them, you'll see that they snap. Where you get the green lines, they will snap into the view. Also notice that they don't snap to the sides or to the bottom. If they don't do that, just minimize the view, and then we can snap to the side or to the bottom. Here we have the view and the combo view, and they're almost identical. The difference is the combo view has all the tools at the top of the view, and it has a toolbar menu which gives all the options to have these tools embedded in the menu itself. One of the advantages with the combo view over the normal view is if you want to go full screen and you double click up here to go full screen, that you automatically keep the toolbars, where with the viewer you will not keep them. You can choose to show or hide these in the combo view. If you right click on the screen, you'll get this menu, and if you click on GUI Show Hide, you will see that you have options to hide a toolbar or the tool options bar or the console, which is down there. Of the two of these, my personal preference is the combo viewer, so I'm going to stick with that. Then what I'm going to add is an X sheet. The X sheet is where you will manipulate everything that happens in your scene. What will be placed in the X sheet are what are called levels, which I will explain more in another video, but are basically collections of drawings. OpenToonz does not have a timeline. Personally, I think the X sheet is superior to a timeline for a 2D animation package, and the X sheet is more than sufficient for controlling the scene. What we will also get out is the level strip, and we'll dock that at the side. Now your drawings can be individually controlled on the level strip. You can have drawings in your level strip which will not automatically be activated in the scene until they are placed on the X sheet. The next window which we will add will be palette. There are two main palette windows. There's palette and there is studio palette. The palette is where all your colors which you use will reside within the scene, and the palette is per level. So each level which you place in the X sheet, or basically each level strip over here, will use one palette. The studio palette will allow you to have palettes which you can use for the entire project. You can therefore create a palette once and you can load it in to different levels to use on different drawings. Along with these, you will have the style editor. The style editor is where you will set your colors for any of your palette styles. I've closed the studio palette and the style editor, and I'm just going to dock my palette down here. This is the main interface which I'm going to be using personally. Other things which you have as options over here under Windows are the color model, which you can use to import colors from external sources. You have the batch servers and the tasks. Which are used for if you have a batch rendering system. You have the file browser and the scene cast, which are also what's in the browser over here, which is what you use to organize how your information is stored within your scene. You have your schematic, which is actually two different views, which is where you will organize your effects and where you will organize how the scene is laid out. You have the flipbook, which is used for previewing scenes. You've got the function editor, which is used for when you're animating within Toonz using transformations, which is usually either going to be animation of backgrounds, or it is going to be when you're doing cutout animation, either as cutout puppets or as plastic rigs. Then you have the message center and you have the history. The history will provide a history of all the things which you have done in the scene, and you can navigate the history to go to specific parts of what you have done. So if you want to go back to a certain point within a drawing, you can use the history to do that. The message center is used for either rendering or scripting. It was going to be when you're doing more technical processes and you're wanting information as to what has gone wrong. Then the final things which you'll have on the toolbar. We'll give you a dockable toolbar. And then you have the tool option bar, which is the same as the options over here, which you could also choose to dock if you do not want to use that tool option bar